Hey, Dr. C here. Nice to see you all again. And today we're going to talk about exercise. Talk about it. Remember, I have that exercise program 10 o'clock every morning on this channel. And you should participate. You may think that seated exercise is not true exercise. Well, I can make you think about that again. There are some of those exercises that will stress you, and I can guarantee it. So, hope to see you someday. It's called Senior Sweat. Let's talk a little bit about exercise because I haven't spoken about the value of exercise at any age. But let's talk specifically about seniors because that's what this program is all about. So, what is exercise? I always start with definitions, you know. So what is exercise? Well, basically, it's muscular activity that involves a physical effort to sustain or improve health. That's why you exercise, to improve your health. So that's the basic exercise. What types of exercise are out there? Well, we hear that there's aerobic exercise. Well, okay. What is aerobic exercise? Well, it's exercise that makes the heart beat faster, makes you breathe faster. In other words, it puts a little bit of physical stress on the body. Now, what about that aerobic exercise? And now I'm talking about exercise like running, swimming, bicycling, stuff that really, rowing, all these things that will make your heart go faster, breathing faster, and then you get your second wind, and then you're into your exercise. There's an advantage to aerobic exercising. Number one, we'll go back to our basic metabolism. Normally, we have in our body glucose, and that's stored in the liver as glycogen. But that's just a small amount that's stored there. Usually with exercise, you go through that glycogen very quickly. Maybe 6-8 hours, that's it. So then you have to get another source for energy to sustain that activity. And you get it from these free fatty acids that are stored in the fat. So that's the purpose of the fat. A lot of good energy comes from those free fatty acids there. Also, when you look at the cells themselves, normally they will just consume a little bit of that glucose and they will result in a little bit of energy molecules. They call them ATP, usually just a few. When you convert them to an aerobic form of energy, you then get into what they call the Krebs cycle, which then will generate a huge amount of ATP. So I know that's a basic amount of stuff, but we don't need to go into all of the little details. But those are the important things about aerobic exercise. What other type is there? Well, there's stretching exercises. And we do this as well. Remember, balance, stretching, strength. So we do a lot of the stretching exercises. But there's different types of stretching exercises as well. There's static stretching. In other words, when you're sitting down or standing or doing whatever your stretching is, if you do it with just the motion itself, that's static exercise. And then there's dynamic exercise, where there's movement involved. That's a different type of exercise. There's some people who think that there's a thing called isometric exercise, which supposedly is an improvement over either passive or active exercise, stretching. And what that isometric is that, yes, there is movement, but it's sustained movement. It's sustained. that makes it a little more difficult. That we don't do a lot of because that can result in a lot of little tiny micro tears in your muscles, especially in the elderly, and you're going to have sore muscles afterwards, which take a little bit of time to heal up. It is a very good form of exercise, but I don't do it specifically for that reason. I don't want to cause any injuries to muscles in the elderly. So those are the different types of exercises that are out there. Before we talk about the other types of exercise, I should mention something about the different types of muscle contractions that you can have. You can have what's called a concentric contraction, where the fibers of the muscle shorten. And for example, if I wanted to contract my biceps, I shorten it by pulling up like that. That shortens the muscle, and this stretches the muscle. So this is concentric, and to lengthen it, eccentric. This is just a simple thing. Simple, okay? There are some people who think, too, that eccentric muscle stretching is better. Like, for example, if you're carrying weights and you're carrying things, so you're really stretching those muscles on the inside of the arms. That's an eccentric contraction. That also can cause micro tears in the muscle, and so we don't do a lot of eccentric or isometric exercise like that. Okay, so that is the stretching part. And in stretching, we do a lot of yoga, we do Tai Chi. Another type of exercise would be the strengthening exercises. And for that, we use the weights and the bands. And so there's some active exercises that we do to help to strengthen the muscles in our body. That is mostly what they call anaerobic exercise as compared to aerobic exercise like running, rowing, bike riding, that type of stuff. And the last type of exercise has to do with balance. And for balance, we use mostly Tai Chi. I like Tai Chi. Been around for a long time, centuries. And I should mention, too, that Tai Chi began as a Chinese martial art many, many centuries ago. And just because it's Chinese doesn't make it bad. It does use the concept of a balance of opposites. And so that's why the Tai Chi itself seems to be very effective in improving the balance of the body's muscles. So, okay, so those are the types, the 4 types of exercise that are out there. Good, let's go on. What else? Why the heck do we need exercise? Well, do you know that 62% of adults in the United States are overweight? Some of them morbidly obese. Now, 62% is a hell of a big number when you consider the number of adults. And it's also present in the kids. There are a number of overweight kids in the United States as well. They estimate roughly 6 million in the United States alone are overweight. And do you know how many people drop out of health clubs? Health clubs are by the thousands out there in the United States. Thousands of them. The dropout rate is 62%. Yes, because of many reasons. So, is that necessarily the answer? Why do people drop out? And why do people have an excuse why they can't exercise? Well, let's go through the reasons that people give for dropping out or not exercising regularly. And remember, when I say exercising regularly, I'm using the standard amount of exercise that people should do. And this has been defined, redefined over the course of many decades in the United States. We say that adults in the United States should get somewhere between 150 to 300 minutes of exercise per week. Now, 150 minutes is not a lot. That's 5 periods, 5 half-hour periods, half hour each per week. Not a lot, but there's still excuses why they're not being done. And so, let's go over those excuses. Number 1, I'm too tired. Well, let me tell you, I always feel tired. I always have all my life. But that doesn't mean that I can't exercise. You have to set aside a period of time, half hour, set aside at least 5 days out of the 7, a half hour of moderate intensity exercise a week. Let me tell you, once you hit 80, I don't know what there is about it, hitting 80, but once you hit 80, I'm even more fatigued at times. I even started taking a little nap. Remember power nap, 20 to 30 minutes? Not a bad thing, and I can attest to that. I feel a hell of a lot better, and I get rid of that afternoon fatigue with that little nap. Don't be embarrassed if you have to do that. Okay, but that's one of the biggest complaints people have. They're just too tired. Another complaint, I can't take the time. Well, what the hell else do you have to do? You're retired. You can't possibly have a schedule after you're retired that keeps you busy 24 hours a day. Let's face it. So that's a bogus type of excuse. What's the other one? That's legitimate, actually. Pain. Pain will keep people from doing exercise. But there's usually pain in a specific area of the body, not the total body. Not the total body. Although there are some illnesses like fibromyalgia, things like that, that may cause pain all over the body. Most of the time, it's in a specific area. That doesn't mean you can't exercise the rest of your body. So, even though pain itself is a legitimate excuse, there's no excuse that you can't exercise the rest of your body. Like any other chronic illness like arthritis, that's a very common illness to have. That may be one of the most common reasons why people won't exercise. But again, you do what you can, and you stick to that. What's the other excuse? Well, people tend to isolate. That's part of depression. I know people will, especially now with the COVID era that we have, there's a lot of isolation. Some of it is forced isolation. Nobody can visit you, for example. That's nonsense most of the time, but that does cause problems, and it's usually based on a depression. Okay, what else? Well, some can't accept the physical changes in their body. I can't do what I did when I was age 20 or 30. Well, hell, who expects you to do it at age 80? You do the best that you can at your age. And I can do a fair amount, but a limited amount. So I may go out in the yard and work for an hour, 2 hours at the most. I come in, rest, because my body tells me, oh, you're getting tired. Okay, in I go, take some water, maybe take a nap, back out again. But that's not a total excuse. Financial stresses. Yeah, but this doesn't cost anything. You follow my program in the morning, you got yourself 5 days a week, you got your half hour of exercise. So, and it doesn't cost you a damn thing. You don't need a lot of stuff. I don't need to go to the gym and spend money looking at all the other younger people who are exercising. I'm going to exercise myself, and I'm not going to exercise with things that are going to hurt me. So, financial excuses are not an excuse. So those are all the excuses people give for exercising. Well, what are the good things about exercise? What are the benefits you get from exercise? Whoa, I got a whole set of things why you should exercise. Number one, you sleep better. When you get a little fatigued and all, you actually sleep better. You don't need a sleeping pill. You just need to have a little bit of muscle fatigue, and you do go to sleep. Now, you may not stay asleep the whole time, but you'll get to sleep. And when you start working with your mind to focus on things while you're asleep, focus on your breathing, keep all of the other extraneous things out of your mind, you will sleep better. So, number one, it improves sleep. Number two, let's talk about metabolism a little bit. People who exercise regularly have reduced rates of their low density, or what they call bad cholesterol, the low density lipoproteins, and their blood pressure is a little lower than people who don't exercise. Now, yes, it may be due totally to weight, but not totally. Exercising is great for reducing cholesterol and for reducing arteriosclerosis progression. So, and those are proven. Hundreds of studies, not just a few studies, hundreds of studies that show the same thing. What else? Well, there's a reduced rate of diabetes, the type 2 diabetes, not the ones that you inherit, the type 1s, the type 2s. You can forestall the development of type 2 diabetes by exercising and keeping your weight steady. Now, I'm not saying you lose weight with exercise. No. Studies are very mixed as far as ability to lose weight with exercise alone. You need a program to lose weight. You need to do the exercise with a specific reduction in your diet and specific foods in your diet as well. So you need both of those things. Okay, so exercise, though, does decrease your systolic blood pressure as well. Now, there are some who say that you diminish your risk for depression. And remember, I said that even nowadays with the COVID era and all, the loneliness aspect, which is basically depression. The loneliness causes depression, the depression or causes loneliness, one or the other. But they go together. They go together. And so the better you exercise, the more regularly you exercise, the less you have a problem with depression. Some people think that you get less dementia. And nowadays there's a bunch of studies that are out there showing different things that don't change in the brain that lead to dementia. We don't know for sure if this is true or not, because you got to do long-term studies on people, individuals, to see what the effect on dementia is going to be. But there is that out there. It also leads to an improved quality of life. You feel better about yourself. You have more energy. You do more. You accomplish more. That's not something that is measured easily. But there's no question, in all the studies that have been done, the quality of life improves in people who exercise regularly. What else? Well, no question that you do improve the mortality rate. You're not dying as fast as people who don't exercise. Yeah, it's a small amount, but hey, if it's going to keep me around for a year or two more, worth it. It's worth it. So there is an improved mortality rate as well. What else? Bone health. Bone health. Simply by contracting those muscles, which all attach to different bones in the body, that pulling on the bone and all, right where it pulls, that improves bone health. You don't get as much or as severe an osteopenia or osteoporosis. So exercise is an important treatment plan, for example, for people who have thinning of the bones, osteopenia, or osteoporosis. Part of the exercise program. You also get an improvement in your immune system. And I don't need to go into great detail on which of the cells, the immune cells, are improved with that. But take my word for it, there is a definite, measurable improvement in your immune system with exercise as well. And finally, there's an improvement in what they call neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity. How do you measure that? Well, you measure that generally by people who can multitask. I noticed that one of the things that I was getting more and more deficient in is ability to multitask. And I especially noticed that around age 80. I could do one or two things well, but I used to be able to do 4 or 5 things, keep them in mind, and do them in an organized fashion. I had trouble doing that. And I exercise too. So God knows what would have happened if I didn't. So there's an improvement in ability to multitask, which means that the cells in the brain are able to communicate better with each other with improved exercise. So those are the reasons why, or the benefits, we should say, of an exercise program. Another thing too, falls. Remember I mentioned one of the different things that we do for exercise is balance exercise. Those are one of the types of exercises that we do. And I mentioned that we do a lot of the Tai Chi as part of that. Now, there are many, many reasons why people fall. Maybe you're not physically fit. Maybe it's due to the vast number of medications that you're taking. Some of them really do influence your ability to adjust. Say if you go from a sitting to a standing position, you may get a little dizzy at first, that type of thing. That's medication. That's part of the side effects of medication. It's an acceptable side effect of medication. So I tell people if they get that, when you change positions, just give it 2-3 seconds to adjust. Let your body adjust to that change in position and then go about your activities. We do get poor vision. That's also part of why we fall. Poor vision. Remember when we start our balance class, I told you that there's 3 things you need specifically in your body to maintain your balance. You need good vision. You need decent hearing. And you need those little nerve endings in the body that go to the muscles all over the body. It's called the proprioceptive nerve endings in the body. You need all 3. And there are tests that we can do in order to see how your balance is coming along. One of those simplest tests that we do would be called the Tug, T-U-G, the Tug Test. And what we do with the Tug Test, it stands for timed up and down exercise. And so what we do is we'll have people sit in a chair, good balance, not holding on to the arms of the chair. And we'll have people then get up, walk 3 yards, 10 feet, walk, turn around, walk back, and sit. Not using your hands to push yourself up, just standing, walking 10 feet, turning, coming back 10 feet, and then turning and sitting. You should do that in roughly under 13 seconds. So that is a very simple but a very good test for your balance. Now, things that doctors do in the office, for example, most of them don't make you walk and do the tug test. But what they may do is a balance test where you're standing and then you got your 2 feet on the ground, hands at the side, good posture, and then you close your eyes. Now what that does, it takes away the vision part of the balance. Now, if you can do that for 20 seconds and then open your eyes and you have no swaying while you're doing it, then you're okay. Your balance is okay. Now, is that better than the tug test? No, it's not, because that just tells you static. In other words, one dimension, static type of balance. Whereas the tug test tells you not only static, but dynamic as well. So that's a better test. But it is a test. It is a balance test. Now, we can also affect the nerves in the inner ear as well with that static balance test. And you do that by, when you're there, you go to the side, nod, 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 or back, forth. In other words, you're trying to confuse those little pellets that are in the inner ear and try to eliminate the hearing part of the balance mechanism. Now the third part, the proprioceptive nerve endings, unfortunately, as we age, we lose the ability to feel a lot of these things. And so that's going to naturally diminish over time. How do we test for that? You test for that by lifting one foot, lifting one foot off the floor. And you keep your eyes open. Don't turn your head, but keep your eyes open, but just lift that leg off the floor. Now you got just that one leg. And so that's a good test of the proprioceptive nerve endings in your body. So those are the 3 tests that we might use to prevent falls, or at least help to prevent falls. So falls, as I said, is a big deal. They say 1 in 4 people have a fall. Some people even say 1 in 3 have a fall every year. 29 million falls every year in elder patients. 3 million ER, emergency room visits. 800,000 hospitalizations. And 28,000 deaths from falls, usually because of head injury or a major bone injury. So it is a big deal. And exercise is a major part of getting you back to good balance again. Okay, that's my spiel for the day. That's why we exercise. Please keep doing it. Follow our program. This is Dr. C. Have a nice day.